What's up, everybody? I am Steve, and with me, as always, is D. And you are watching Conversations with Cabys, the only show on the internet that knows Frog's real name is Glenn. And
That's right, folks.
on this week's episode, we are debuting a new segment, a whole new shit. Um, gonna be one of our weekly things going on. One thing we're gonna do on a Wednesday. It's called the expansion pack. All about video games. And this week's video game is mine and D's one of mine and D's favorites. Maybe it's really tough to say all time favorite, so I won't. I'll never commit to an all time favorite, but this is in there amongst the many good goods. And what is that,
I
D?
would I would say that this game is. It may not be my all-time favorite game. It is definitely up there, and it probably is what I would say is the game I'm most passionate about. I love this game. I love every detail of this game. This game is called Chrono Trigger.
That's right, Chrono Trigger. You know it, you love it.
And
The
if you
frog is
don't know it,
Glenn.
you're gonna know all about it by the end of this episode.
You will know what that means, where that reference comes from. It's a good reference. We always change the frog's name to Glenn because it's fun.
Trying to be accurate to the storyline.
Right.
So, anyways, to open this episode, this details about the game.
The
I guess let's
inaugural
start from the
episode
beginning.
of Expansion Pack. The inaugural episode.
Yes.
Do 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 D. Break off a piece. A Chrono Trigger.
All right. So this game opens up. First of all, this was released in '95.
March 11th,
At,
1995. At the pretty well in the latter half of the Super Nintendo life cycle. Let's also say that it's on the Super Nintendo, but been released on every damn thing. Every virtual console that Nintendo has. It's on the PlayStation Network, iOS devices, Android devices. It's on Windows. It's
Steam.
it's on fucking everything. It's on everything, so you can get it. No excuse to not be playing this one because it's a fucking gem. And it came out at the end of the Super Nintendo's life cycle, which means it's a very powerful game. It knew we knew what the limits of the Super Nintendo were, so we were able to push the thing to its limits, and it really shows with this game.
It was groundbreaking at the time. This was, it wasn't like super high end graphics on certain aspects of the game, but other parts it was. And everything from the musical score in this game to the way that the the, the battle system works, which we'll get into here in a little bit, down to just the way that the fighting mechanisms worked in this game as well, which was very awesome. But
The storytelling is second to none in this game, and you know that after 10 minutes of starting the game up, you know that this is going to be a really good story. You walk into that center town, and it's like you're walking into a festival. It's amazing.
yep, you wake up in present day, what they call it, where Chrono lives, and you go to, um, you wake up in his house. You hear the bells ringing. His mom wakes up, Chrono, Chrono, and then you guys basically start the game out. It's very, very innocent at the very beginning. There's not anything to do. It's just you have one kind of destination that really sparks the beginning of the story, and that happens when you get down to the festival there at the Linné Square, and then you run into
Miss Marley.
Miss Marley. That's right. Little girl just running around looking at the main little plaza there, the festival,
Innocent little
and you bump
girl. Innocent little girl.
you bump into her, and her necklace falls off onto the ground. And this is where you find out after your first playthrough that decisions you make in the game actually do have an impact later on down the road. It's kind of cool.
Very cool. Those are very cool mechanics. And I will say the opening bit to this, the waking up in a bedroom and only really having one destination to go is prevalent in so many games. From the first Pokemon games to Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I mean, just many video games have done this thing of a really awakening as yourself and starting your day, and the first thing you do starts turning to shit. Basically, like that's when shit hits the fan. We get to our first destination, and oh fuck, and it's not necessarily oh fuck so much at the beginning of this. You can do various things in it. It was the first time to where there was many choices, like many avenues you could go do before you got to, let's say, the next fork in the road for story progression.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the like I said, that's the catalyst that really initiates the story and moves things, starts moving things forward. And she joins you, based on decisions you make and how you answer certain questions. But the main the main drive of the story is she joins you, and then you guys start on your adventure together. And I guess just to bring it back for a minute, this is a role playing game. So if you're familiar with Final Fantasy titles or games that play similar to that, this is kind of like that.
And it was also made by Square Enix. Enix at the time, specifically before Square bought them, which also made Dragon Quest. So this is a really solidly made RPG from people who've made RPGs for a really long time, and it's probably, as they say, the three designers, the development team on this was Square dubbed the Dream Team. So I mean, they're Final Fantasy alums and Dragon Quest alums and manga alums, which you see the manga side of this immensely as well. So it's masterfully done by a really really solid team at Square Enix.
But yeah, this is definitely made by some of the best storyteller slash RPG game makers of their time, and maybe even of all time.
For sure.
Some of these guys are still in the biz. Some of them are not, either due to age or whatever. But yeah, this is fantastic. The game continues on. You guys run around the festival. You can do different fun little side games and quests, and not quests really, but side games and activities and things like that. And the next pivotal point in the story is when you get to the point where you go to your friend. Her name's Luca, and she and her father have invented basically they call it a telepod. It's like a matter transfer machine from one place to another. And she Marley with you, she wants to try it out. So
she's a little girl. She just wants some adventure. She wants to get out there and do some things. And yeah, it's the pods are placed like in the same screen, so it's just one pod to another, back and forth. A simple little tested affair. That's all it is. Nothing crazy. So Marley hops in.
And yeah, so they fire up the machine. When she's on the pod, they notice that her necklace, the one that got bumped off in the beginning when you met her, it starts reacting to the machine. And basically she ends up getting transported somewhere else, not to the telepod where she was supposed to go on the other side of the screen, but she goes through like a portal and is teleported to not only another area but another place in time as well. And that's when that's when we determine that time travel is the name of the game in this game.
And what you do in each of those times also affects the ending, which is fucking also crazy. It's very cool. And that really sets it off. Like that's kind of the opener of it. But well, how do you
Well, from that point, I mean, we haven't even talked about battle because you haven't yet. You've literally just started the story off, and that's pretty much from the start. That's probably the first 5 minutes of the game. Depending on how long you spend in the festival.
Right. I mean, it could be even after that, because it breaks into the cutscene. So there are a couple cutscenes opening things in this one, and it breaks off, and then after that, what happens?
Then you when you follow her through the portal, because Chrono, I mean, he's the hero of the game. He's going to follow her, and
that's your character, Chrono, red hair, spikies.
Yep. You know that, and once you see her go through and she's just vanished, she's gone. Chrono hops on the telepod, picks up the amulet because the amulet was left behind. Girl
Chrono's a
got
smart dude.
transported,
Chrono's a smart dude, so he picks up the amulet.
and then they throw the switch, and then sure enough, the same thing happens again. And he's transported to the same time. Only when he gets there, she's not there. He's in the woods. He's in the forest. And so you work your way.
And you don't know what
Once,
time it is, and you're just like in the middle of the woods, right?
yep,
You don't
and you
doesn't tell
don't.
you what time of year it is, or you don't know anything. You're just
Yep,
there.
you're just in the woods, and all of a sudden, you try to leave the screen and continue on, and you get stopped by a couple guys, and you're introduced to your first battle, and the battle music starts, and you kind of engage with the enemy, and then this is an active time battle game, so you have a little meter that fills up, and once that meter fills up, then that means you can make a move. You can do whatever action it is you want to do. You can attack, you can use your techniques, you can use items, etc.
I believe Final
And
Fantasy basically did a riff on this. Dragon Quest has done it in several games. It's a real time aspect of that is so it's not what are those two? Um, Continue.
there's the active time battle, and then there is the kind of basically wait, like you know you have the choice of enemies waiting to make a move until you have made your choice to move, or it's active, and that means that enemies move whenever they're ready to move, so they don't have to necessarily wait for you to make your selection on what it is you want to do.
Right.
It's just that the battle's always going.
Right. They consider Chrono Trigger a Tex TECHS battle system. And
Yep. Tech,
active time is Final.
technique.
Yeah, active time battles Final Fantasy, and then the others as well. But
But that's one of the mechanics of the game that makes it neat. And then you realize, okay, you kind of figure out how to play the game. You can just attack with your weapon. You can use a technique once you have learned them, and as you level up and grow and get experience, then you learn new techniques along the way. Um, and what's cool is when you add members to your party, that you can take those techniques and combine them and make cooperative techniques where you
double and triple cooperative techniques. It's
yep.
and is there a quad?
No, just three. You can
Just
have
three.
three members in your party throughout
Right.
this game is the max.
And there's a total of 6 members
Uh,
total.
for it's either 6 or 7. Oh yeah, let's just name them off. You got Chrono, you got
Right.
Marley,
Uh-huh.
Luca, Robo, Frog, Magus, and Ayla.
Yeah. Right.
So
Ayla.
7.
Yeah. 7.
Um,
Yeah, so rather than turn based, this is a active system. So you have your meter that you fill up, that's your turn, and each one subsequently ticks off in an order of that. So you can speed yourself up, slow yourself down. You can focus on those things. There are many, just like any other RPG. There's better equipment that you can get, items, magics, things like that.
yeah. The time it takes you to be ready and for your little bar to fill up to be ready to make an action in the battle system is based off your character's speed. So the higher more points you have in speed, the quicker that bar fills up, which is awesome.
Right, which is just another level, and there's intricate ways going about like being, the ability to defend magic attacks against you, confusion, things like that. Those type of effects is a stat based thing, and there are power ups for all of that stuff, and it's super cool game, in that sense, in that regard.
But yeah, so basically the first few, I would say the first 15 minutes to half hour of this gameplay after this is spent looking to try and find where Marley went.
On
And
a semi linear path, through this area on the map, basically. But there are various cutoffs where there's secret chests and things like that that you can get in. There are optional battles along the way that you can, if you're that's another cool thing about the game. If you're quick enough or know the game enough, if it's like your second time through, there are ways around certain battles that, if you pick a path that's a little bit different than maybe say the linear path, you avoid certain battles, which is cool, and intricate. The map is interesting in a way, that's kind of reminiscent to Zelda 2 in a sense, where the enemies on the screen as you're moving move with you, so you can avoid them if you can avoid getting into a battle with them if they're a moving enemy, let's say back and forth across the screen doing various things, like they could be it could be one could be a ball and a little goblin enemy, and they could be rolling on top of each other just playing around, and you can avoid them that way, and that's in this area and things like that. That's you learn that in this particular in this first, just in this intro, and it's just the way that they told the story, and you learn that kind of all of this is the tutorial really to the game, but it's not a hands-on babysitting tutorial. They designed the game to initiate you in this way, and also be able to be worked around if you're a veteran player and don't really need the tutorial. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which is a masterful design bit that games still try to do today and fail at.
Well, that's the beauty. You just touched on a really good part of this describing this game, is that this game is meant to be replayed multiple times.
For sure. New Game Plus.
Yeah, and that's a whole ending thing that you get after you've beaten the game naturally the first way through, and then they go into so many other things. I mean, you have alternative endings in this game. There are many. I believe there are 9. I think maybe even 11. I'm not sure. I don't remember totally. It's been a long time. But many alternative endings depending on how you play the game and certain decisions you make and certain people you have with you in your party, certain areas of time in which you go and choose to take your path to the end of the game. That's really cool too, because if you want to, you have an option, within the first, I would say, 45 minutes of gameplay, you have an option to go straight to the end of the game if you want to, and fight the final boss.
You won't get as good of an ending, and you will die pretty well for sure. He's fucking hard.
It's not an easy battle, and it's something that you have to basically be on a New Game Plus with equipment and leveled up characters and things that you're ready to just go with right out the gate.
Right. I mean, it's best to do it New Game Plus, and that's why they do it. It's for New Game Plus is the reason why they allow you to go straight there fairly quickly.
And just so you guys if you're wondering what New Game Plus is, it's after you've beaten the game, you get to start a brand new game from the beginning of the story with all of your characters' level and experience, stats, and equipment. So you're basically, wherever you beat the game at, whatever equipment you had, whatever level you were at, you're starting a brand new game with that same setup. And you still go through the game, you still get all the same stuff as you go through. You can get multiples of the same items, which you can. There's certain items in the game that you can make or have made for you that need multiples of items that you have to basically beat the game twice to get.
Right. Well, and there's also, in that sense, they've also in the story developed ways for you to receive items using time, because time is such an integral part here. But speaking of time, the quickest New Game Plus speed run is 6 minutes and 38 seconds. Somebody beat the game in New Game Plus in 6 minutes and 38 seconds. And then no New Game Plus, any percent, is 2 hours 47 minutes. So somebody beat the game in 2 hours 47 minutes.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's impressive.
And let me give a shout out real quick to AGDQ. Awesome Games Done Quick. It's every year in January, in the winter months, they put on a show on Twitch that raises money for the Prevent Cancer Foundation. Cancer is something that sucks real bad, and everybody knows why. So yeah, it's good. It's a good one to donate to. and watch. It's on Twitch, and chances are good Chrono Trigger is a speed run on it. If you don't know what a speed run is, quick little rundown on a speed run. A speed run is playing the game as fast as you can, beating it as fast as you can, most efficient, most optimum way. And these older games have gotten so intricate and awesome in their speed runs that they're just amazing to watch because it's an art to watch somebody beat it that quickly and that perfectly, play the game that perfectly. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
it's amazing to beat Chrono Trigger in 2 hours and 47 minutes, and to New Game Plus it in 6 minutes 30 seconds is in fucking insane. I don't even know how that's possible. Like, it seems crazy to me.
Your first organic playthrough of this game, if you've never heard of it, never seen it, never looked at it or anything like that, this is probably, I would say, a 40-hour game on average.
If you're a grinder, and a grinder in an RPG sense is somebody who grinds out levels, beats a ton of enemies at lower level that's safe before moving on. If you're a grinder, it's about a 60-hour game. I think I first playthrough put about 60 hours into it, but I also got real high level and just got into it. I enjoyed the combat system enough that grinding didn't matter.
That was one thing that was nice, is grinding in this. I mean, some of it is like the prompts going through, like, confirmations of your experience points and items picked up, but it's just
Sure.
you're getting more stuff.
Right, but if you're quick at it, you can get through the fight quickly. It's just, oh, try attacks, boom, attacks, boop, 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 and just, it's like three buttons and I'm done. I kill the thing, I'm done. Okay, good. Next one, and it's good that way. And
Yep.
the intricacies with the monsters was so crazy, as well. Like, around this time after, where were we at? Were we at? Did you see Marley yet?
Yeah, so yeah, we've basically, we're looking for Marley. We end up going through the forest and we
Right.
come to a castle, and you find that you enter the castle and you're treated as a criminal, and you're going in looking for her. And no, you're not treated as a criminal until you go back to present time. Sorry,
Right.
sorry, we're still in
Right.
the old days. Um, you meet the king and the queen of the castle, and you end up searching the castle, and you go upstairs to her room, I think, and she's there, but she's dressed like royalty.
Yeah, you find out she's princess basically, the princess of the or the queen of the no princess right
She's actually is the princess, but in that time they mistook her for
for
the
the
queen,
queen, right? Because
who
the
was
queen
who
was
was
missing.
missing.
Who was missing? Right. Yeah. So she's actually the princess, but she is, and you learn all this right now, that obviously her lineage is, and this is also about time. It's a generational type of game. So Marley is very intricate in this, and her story is very generational, because she looks so much like her, I guess, what is it, great grandmother or great great grandmother or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Um,
her ancestors, probably several
yeah, I
generations.
don't remember. They say how many greats or what, however long ago it was, but I don't recall at this stage. I think it was 1,000 years, maybe. So that's a lot of
I
greats.
think, yeah,
It's a lot of greats. But anyway, so she looks so much like her ancestor that they mistook her for the queen. She's up there in it, and basically your mission now is to find the real queen.
yep. You're
Um,
there, and what is it? What isn't it? Something else happens when you meet her in the room. Doesn't she disappear again?
right, because the timeline skewed because she's missing from the. No, no, no. The timeline skewed because her ancestor is still in the past and not found, and they called off the search because she was found. She,
Prematurely,
well, they think
by
she's the
mistake.
right. They think she's the queen, so
That's
they
right.
called off the search, which in turn made her disappear because her ancestor ends up dying at the hands of the evil bad guy, in this sense, which is the Chancellor.
Yep. Yeah. So the chancellor himself is good, but the guy who is the enemy here, the bad guy who kidnaps the queen, he portrays himself as the
He can like
chancellor, locks the
polymorph or
real one
whatever. Yeah,
away.
yeah. He can like
He
polymorph or whatever, and locks the other one in a chest.
Yep. So this guy is actually, yeah, he's some sort of like polymorphic, weird, big bad guy or whatever. His name's Yakra, and he you find out later that you're searching through the kingdom looking for the queen. You have to go next door. There's a cathedral. You enter the cathedral. work your way through. You find out you get to meet your next character in the party. When you enter the cathedral, you get
Mm-hmm.
basically you get surprise attacked by one of the enemies in there, and that your new character, who is
Mr. Glenn,
Mr. Glenn the Frog,
the
he comes
frog,
drop he comes dropping in and takes out that enemy that was about to gank you, and you meet him for the first time, and he joins your party.
and he's a frog. Straight up, he's a frog. A walking bipedal frog with a killer cape, sword, and he's a bad mofo.
And I forgot, I jumped ahead just a little bit too far there before you go to the cathedral, but before you also leave the castle. After the princess disappears, your friend Luca catches up to you. She goes through the portal as
Right,
well.
right, and finds out she determined how you guys got where you got or whatever and all
Yep.
that. Yeah.
She figured out what happened. She backtracked and figured out that she is the princess and she's lineage, and that the queen's missing, and oh, we got to go find her. So
Right. So
that
that's
sparks
now
the
I have
whole.
two. Now you need, because you need the party basically at this point. You need two people. So Luca joins your party. You see what Luca has to offer. Luca's a badass mage. Works in fire. Her shit's fire and it's dope. And she
Yep.
also shoots a gun, right?
Yeah, she has several weapons, but yeah, they're mostly all of the
Mostly
gun type.
ranged type. She's a ranged attacker basically. Let's say with some badass magic.
Yep.
Whereas Chrono is a he does everything. He does kind of all types of magic.
It's mostly lightning based though. It's all lightning based for him.
He's lightning, okay, and then he has obviously a badass sword.
Oh yeah, he is by far best. Him and Glenn are the swordsmen of the game for sure.
So then you go to the cathedral, get Glenn. Glenn's backstory is that what was his backstory? Lay it on
So
me.
he served in the Royal Army. He was, I think, a leader, one of the commanders or generals in the Royal Army, and he was captured by Magus. And Magus was leading the army at the time against the Royal Army,
Right.
and it captured Glenn. And Magus is you'll find out, he is basically a wizard of black magic,
Right.
and he basically put a curse on Glenn and turned him into a frog. But he still retained all of his badass sword skills and strength and everything like that. He's just now
Just
trapped
frog.
in a frog's body.
Right. Nobody wants to date a frog. It's a sad life.
Mm-hmm. But now you have 3 people in your party, and now you really figure out that you can learn by having these multiple people in your party that you can have combination techniques. And techniques is like your special abilities or skills, if you want to call it that, or it could also be this is where your magic comes in as well, your magic skills.
Right. Because techs are singular, as in whatever your magic is, and then you combine your singulars together with 2 or 3 people, and make triple techs, double techs, or triple techs, and it's dope. It's a way that you can combine magic, and everybody takes up their turn. So in the real time sense or the active battle sense, you have to wait in order to do a triple tech. You have to wait for all 3 of your people to have their turn ready. So sometimes you get attacked more than you should because you're waiting for your people to be ready, for your slower party members to be ready, which is a strategy thing in and of itself with it. But yeah, this is where it really you kind of dive deep into the game.
Yep, it is. It's a risk reward thing. It's like if you're willing to wait for your whole party to be ready to make this big, grandiose attack that's going to do a lot of damage, or heal your whole party or whatever it is you might be doing, that's your risk, and then the reward is greater.
Right.
But yeah, that's where you find out that you can do combinations with 2 people and 3 people as you get more experience and learn new skills. And Frog is also a very awesome swordsmith, but he also possesses the ability to his magic ability is water.
And his water attacks are awesome. Some of the best magic in the game.
Yep, his water attacks are great, and then he also has some healing abilities, which is nice too. It's always good to have a healer on the team.
Because Chrono is not, nor is Luca.
He gets some regeneration abilities later on, but he is not a healer.
He's not a healer. He's not your base healer character at all.
Right. He's your damage dealer and basically your tank.
Right. Because he
Uh,
can get like the most HP, I think, can't he? Isn't he the most HP?
they can all
Robo
max
is
out, but he gets
Robo's pretty damn high.
they can all max out their
Well,
HP,
sure, everybody can, yeah,
but he usually gets it first.
right. Like in the first playthrough, he's designed to be your one with most HP. I'm not talking about
Yeah, multiple
multiples.
plays.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so as you keep progressing through, you got a full party. You go through the cathedral. You find you work through different rooms, kind of dungeon style platforming.
Definitely, this is where the dungeon crawl aspect of the game comes into play, and remembering locations and the maziness of the game. Because this starts out again. This is just the beginning of it, where they're introducing you to all these different elements within the game, and then all these elements improve and get better as you play through.
Yep. And as you work your way through, um, what is it? I think you in the cathedral is where you end up finding Yakra, isn't it?
The first one, I believe so. This is kind of essentially where you get your first introduction into the semi bad guy, right? Like into the
Yeah. So
seminal
yeah,
bad
yeah, yeah,
guy.
yeah. Yeah, he's like a mini boss, if you will.
Right, right.
But he's the first one you have to really deal with, and I believe it is what is it? They doesn't he like I forget. I'm my exact portion of the story gets a little fuzzy here, but I think um, you guys end up freeing the queen. You basically have to fight Yakra, defeat him, save the queen, save the chancellor. They're restored back to their present that to their current time, which is six. I think it's was it 600 AD or 1000 AD?
600 AD.
Okay, yeah. They're restored. You know, they get freed and back. They get to return to the kingdom, and everything's good back there. And you end up taking the portal back to your, present 1000 AD, present day, and they go to visit the kingdom. And when Chrono and Marley return, because you end up once the queen is returned back in 600 AD, then Marley is teleported back to her location where she disappeared from,
Right.
and then she joins your party. Glenn the frog leaves because he feels like he's let the kingdom down for letting the queen get kidnapped in the first place. So he goes off into solitary on his own, and you, Marley, and Luca end up going back through the portal that you came in through via the telepod. You come back through, and when you come back through, you're greeted by, or I'm
The
sorry, you have to go back to drop her off. You have to take Marley back to her house. Now that you know that she is a princess, you have to return her to the kingdom.
right.
And once you get her back to the kingdom, they treat you like a kidnapper because they think that you're the reason why she was missing for all this time.
Yeah, the chancellor comes up. The king's chancellor comes up to you and essentially puts you on trial for kidnapping Marley. And this is where the choices that you see these choices that you made come into play here because they have like references. There's a real trial, like a mock trial with a board and everything.
Yep, you got a jury, and then there is actual flashbacks to previous things you did in the game, and how those choices you are made at that time are being portrayed in the courtroom, and those influence the jury on how they are going to weigh in on your decision.
But no matter what
And
you do, you are sentenced to death.
yep.
And you
Well, no, you're sentenced to prison at first, and then they mix up the paperwork later, and they say execution, and then his execution gets moved up.
right. But he
So
in basically sentenced to death, and then he needs to break free from the prison, which is some really crazy battles. And again, another kind of dungeony and puzzle solving with routes. Like it's a kind of a mazy situation. This is the first real big maze that we have to go through.
and
Um,
you at the beginning when you're breaking out of your cell, you have to figure out where your stuff is, because you don't have your weapons, you don't have nothing, so you
Right.
can't get any battles, you can't fight any enemies. You got to be strategic and stealthy.
Yeah, I mean it's a very, and you don't have to go get your stuff if you don't want to. That's the other side of that. I mean, you can. It's a crazy game in that way. Like there's so much choice, but in the process of moving forward and escaping, you find Luca and Marley, and you guys essentially everybody flees back into that same kind of forest area. That it looks to me it looks similar to the forest area from what is that 600 AD, right?
Yeah, Guardia Forest.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so you go in the forest and the royal soldiers confront you and what you does it open up another portal right there in the woods?
Well, you got once you're breaking out of the jail, you get they basically throw this thing called the dragon tank at you,
Okay, you want
and
to talk about the dragon tanks? All right, that's fine. I mean, it's
yeah,
one of the
so
coolest enemies pretty much in the whole game, and it really shows. It opens up. This is the first one that we've dealt with that has the or the first big one, or one of the first big ones that has multi-zoned attacking, to where
yeah,
you're
this is first one.
attacking multiple things rather than just a single target.
Yep, it's a tank with a head, a body, and a wheel, and you have to attack things in a certain order for them to be effective. Otherwise, he has like a shield or a barrier. And you have to kind of time your attacks, wait for certain times, don't counterattack at certain times. Like it's a very strategic battle, and if you're not used to playing in that way, it can be very frustrating,
You
and
can
you
die
get your
real quick from
you,
him.
you messed up quick.
But it was good. It was good because you saved like right before that though. Like it was a really easy thing to die from. It was almost like Dark Souls in the sense of how you learned from dying in this way. Like you learned, oh, okay, I can't do that. Let me try this way, and then you figure out shit that works and kind of just brute force your way through it by either dying or getting lucky. And
Yep.
it was a good way. It was a good way to teach you that okay, there are things that are going to be like this, so I need to do like either the game gave you like the info you needed before you fought the enemy, that the enemy like threw out various hints and things like that throughout the game, various dialogues. It will tell you the weak points or what you need to do or what you know, kind of give you the little hints to work your way through the battle. Um, this one is more of a brute force to teach you that okay, we're going to have these now, and you're going to need to figure out how to defeat them. And there was two of them, wasn't there? Or was there only
Two
one?
drag.
Yeah, two
No, there's
dragons.
one. There's one.
And you drop the bridge on him, right? That's ultimately
Yep.
how it gets defeated.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you
Spoiler
destroy
alert.
it, and when you destroy it, it explodes and it blows the bridge out because you guys are fighting on the bridge.
And then
And
the bad guys can't get back to you, basically, at that point, right?
right. So then now it's just you're fleeing. You're like, okay, I've defeated this thing. The guards are not stopping me. I'm out.
I'm escaping into the forest, and they escape into the forest and get kind of cornered, and then another portal kind of opens up, right? And
Yep.
doesn't Marley's necklace kind of make it open?
No, this one is, I believe, made with Luca's gate key now.
Gotcha. She has the thing. That's right. That's right. So she saw the energy because these little gates are these small little, like, just small little blue holes, and then using the gate key, Luca opens them up into these bigger holes
Yep. And
before
then
you
you guys
jump in.
go through them, and then that takes you to wherever that particular portal is sent to go.
Right, and each one is a different time, different place. It's different place altogether on the map, and also a different time. But that's what's cool about it is because you're jumping back and forth, and you do this throughout, picking up various people. I mean, this one we jump to the future this time, right?
Let's
We're
see.
jumping to the future. Yeah, we're jumping to a.
Well, whenever so you get forced out, I believe Hold on, I think there's a detail we're missing here. Basically, you end up um, what ends up happening is in the present day, Marley is trying to stop the trial, and even though you've broken out of jail and you have tried to plead your case, no, the royal guards and army aren't listening to you, and they're trying to basically expedite your sentence. You end up fighting. I think you end up fighting the chancellor again, the present day chancellor, another Yakra.
I don't think you fight the chancellor. I think the king just basically before, because we don't know we know the chancellor's a douche, but we haven't. I don't think we fought him. I think basically while we're going in the woods, the king comes up and asks Marley to join him, like come by my side, girl, daughter.
Oh, that's right.
And then Marley refuses because he didn't give a shit about her friends, and didn't care that she said no. She took, you took the chancellor's side, fuck off. And that's when Luca opens up the portal and they bounce
Yep.
in, and that's when they go to the future.
Yep, that drives the wedge between her and her father. That's right.
Right.
So yeah, so she leaves. She ends up bouncing, being like, "Oh, well, if you're gonna do this, then I'm out. I'm leaving."
Yeah, and me
And
and my
and
two
they
homies
out.
go. Yeah, they bounced out and jumped in the portal
Yep,
into just destruction, complete destruction, and it's
2300 AD, I believe, in the future. Is it 2300
I think
or
it's
a 20?
1999.
No, no, they don't see that yet. They don't see that until they get to the future. Then that's a thing they see on the screen.
Okay.
So yeah, they get catapulted to the future. 20, I think it's 2300 AD.
Okay.
And it's in this.
Like
Yeah,
you
it's
don't know.
it's total destruction.
Right.
This is basically like post-apocalyptic something. All that's left that's still operational are machines and robots. There are people around, but they're
They
you
look
know
malnutritioned, and they just they're in shattery tatters of clothes and
and
some of them.
domes they're like shelters.
Yeah, like
They're
essentially biodomes, and then it's biodomes that are on the map, and then complete destruction. Nothing else.
Yep. So it's you arrive at this location, and it's very dismal and depressing, and you kind of work your way out, and you talk to the people that are around, and like he said, everybody's malnutritioned and malnourished, and there's no food, and you know these people are just basically waiting to die. And you figure out that you've been taken here, and I don't think there's a way to get back at this
There
point.
is no other way to get. You can go back and forth between two biodomes here after some shenanigans on the map, but there's no way to get off until you figure out the Robo trick. Like figure out how to
Yep.
make Robo real.
Yep. And that's what this, the future
That's
part of this is basically entailing is you're traversing the map and talking to different people, kind of figuring out where you need to go, what you need to do, and yeah, you you meet Robo. That's great.
your next party member, and kind of find out his story. His story is really interesting. Um, and Robo, after you find Robo opens up another area that is another time gate area. Um, and then this is where you arrive at the end of time.
Yes, because we try to go through a gate with four people in our party. Is this, yeah, the end of time, right?
Yep, end of time. Yeah, where you meet the old man, and the old man basically tells you advice, gives you the advice, and you find the additional gates and things like that. Here, this is kind of like the time hub for the game. After you've gone to these three areas, now we need a place. Now we need to figure out a way to get back and forth between them all. Essentially, at this point, and this is
Yep.
where the hub area comes into play, and
Yep.
the old man who
This
can.
is your kind of your central network to travel back and forth between multiple points in time. And yes, the gentleman you're speaking of, the old man, we find out is Gaspar, the guru of time. Um, he is just kind of this hooded, robed old man who doesn't specify his name or anything, but he does help you out a lot, gives you
Solid
advice,
tips throughout the game. Tells you kind of
pointers.
where to go, like you know, I would go to 600 AD or I'd go to wherever. And, you know, he gives you several tips throughout time. And then again, you have your basic hub to go where you've been before. Um, these time gates where you've been before. And that's when you kind of return back to 1000 AD and you find out more about Lavos, which is what you found out. Lavos, the main bad guy, the destructor of worlds, and the guy that basically made the future so fucked up. You find out in the future why and who that is and why they're what they are.
Yeah, I fast forwarded over a very important detail. So when you're in the future, before you meet Robo, you guys stumble across this like abandoned monitor. Like it kind of looks like a ready room or a war room or something like that. And a big
Something you
monitor
would
starts.
see out of like an old military movie or something like that, like the end of the world scenario type of a movie. And then yeah, the monitor starts up and you see this 1999 AD.
Yep, 1999. You see this giant spiky thing sticking out of the earth, and it's just raining down meteor, lava, fire, everything, just destruction. And then that kind of makes sense because that's basically probably, I think, one of the last records of, you know, normal humankind before that apocalyptic event happened, and then now we're here in the 2300 future,
Right.
just totally destroyed.
Everything's decimated. The human race is down to a couple people after this many generations of loss, and it's insane. So yeah, then you return to 1000 AD and find out more that the Magus people that we talked about in 600 AD, the Magus worshippers and Magus himself, that Frog was talking about in 600 AD, created Lavos in the Middle Ages.
They summoned him. He was a threat that had been known all the way back to 65 million BC, and that's when he actually landed on Earth.
Yeah, but you don't know that yet. Not in this one yet.
We don't know that yet,
Yeah,
but
you
that's
don't know that yet. Yeah.
yeah.
Because 65 million is about to come up. But yeah, you don't. To them, it was that the story isn't 1000 that he was created by Magus created Lavos during the Middle Ages. Like that's when he started to bring him forth, right? So then that's when we go back. This is more of the time jumping. So we're jumping from 1000 AD. Now we're jumping to 600 AD. And you basically learn that from Frog that you need to get this awesome fucking sword to defeat Magus. That's the only thing that will defeat him. And a legendary hero can wield it. And
That's
Glenn
right.
just so happens to be that legendary hero.
Yeah, we learned that we figure out that Glenn, we figure out his backstory. I've already explained that earlier in the beginning, but we find out his story along the way. He used to,
this is really human. This is where he divulges kind of his whole story. He used to be human, used to be in the guard. Magus's army was douches, and he heard about the sword and the Mesamu.
Yes, the Masamoon. Yes, this is where you get to basically pick Frog back up in your party. Because once he leaves at the beginning, after you've had him in your party for a short time and he leaves, you don't get to have him back in your party for quite some time.
He stays in 600 AD while you bounce around in time for this while. So you come back to 600 AD and you pick Frog back up as your party after you've done these things, and then your mission is to basically find Masamu.
Yep, and this is also too, since you now have this connection to the end of time, where you have where your hub is, to pop back in and out. You can now switch characters on the fly.
Right. Which
so
is very good.
You have 3 characters you can have at a max in your party at a time, but you have multiple
4
characters.
Yeah, now we have 4 because we got Robo.
You can cycle them in.
We need to swap out Glenn and Robo at this point and try to get our techs up and our things like that. This is the strategy bits that you find out during the time. And in order to learn the new techs, you have to play with that combo in your party, basically. So, it is very cool, very cool, very cool game.
And might I also add, when you get this connection to the end of time, there's also a bucket.
The
that
bucket.
resides there. It's basically an instant portal to take you to Lavos, the previously aforementioned final boss of the game, the
Right.
person that ultimately destroys the Earth. And that's the bucket you go to if you just wanted, just
Just
die.
wanted.
Just if,
Well, I mean, if you right now, if I'm at the end of time, I think I do this. I think you know what, this Lavos guy sounds like a pushover. Let me first time I'm seeing the end of time here. Fuck it, I'll do it, and then you die
yep,
because it's a trippy screen of magic colors, and you're like, wow, this looks pretty, and then he eats your face. That's it. Just one attack, and everybody's dead, and you're like, well, shit, that was quick.
and this is also one of the first games I think ever, or at least one of the very first few games ever that gave you the option to go straight to the final boss at multiple points throughout the game,
Right.
um, whether you were ready to or not.
Because it's such a time-based game, you have access quickly to those points in time to kill him, and that's what the other thing is. Lavos is an enemy throughout time as well, so you have to defeat him in these multiple. To really defeat Lavos, you have to defeat him in each subsequent time, which you learn
Yep.
later. And basically, we get Mesamu, and then we must go back to 65 million BC to get after we deal with some more end of time stuff. We find out we need to locate the Dream Stone and kind of get that stuff
which is
going.
what this mythical Mesa Moon sword is made of, is Dreamstone, that was only, you know, really in great supply back in those days.
Right, back in 65. And then this is now that's pretty well our last destination. That's our last time period that we can bounce back and forth. And really the game proper begins of you running back and forth from these time periods, um, and defeating various enemies. This is where we really fight Magus himself, like around this time, and we find out his generals, Ozzy and Flea. Those are two fun battles.
And Slash.
And Slash, right?
Yep.
And then kind of in around all this, we get go back to the future and get uh, our awesome ship. And what was that's name?
Epoch or
Epoch.
Epic. Some people say Epic. I like Epoch. I think it sounds
Epoch is the way it should be pronounced because epoch is a time reference. Epochs in time are different stages in time, like Pleistocene to early Pleistocene, all that. Those are epochs in time. So it should be epoch is what it should be pronounced as.
And I think did we skip the fact when we were in 65 million BC we also meet another party character along the way?
We did skip, yeah. Around this time, we get our last, well, one of second to last, I guess, party character here, Ayla, who is a just straight up Amazonian woman from 65 million BC, who is your barbarian class characters, up beaten face, doing high damage.
Yep. She's a physical character. She doesn't possess really quote unquote magic.
I don't think she has any magic. She just
she
does
doesn't
physical attacks only and kicks ass at them. She has really cool physical techs though. Like she still has techs, she just doesn't have magic.
Right. She's not imbued with like an element like water or fire or lightning, anything like that.
And all of her stuff is melee to the face kind of shit. She doesn't really have any ranged attacks at all.
Super strong, super tough character.
And lots of HP as well. So she's that secondary tank character you need to kind of help offset Chrono.
Definitely. And those two together, Chrono and Ayla, have some of, in my opinion, some of the favorite dual techs out of the whole game.
For sure, yeah, they can kick a lot of ass together.
But yeah, so now we've been to 65 million. We've gotten one of our last characters. We go back to the future. We find that we are gifted with this time traveling ship called Epoch, which now gives us instantaneous access to travel through time. We no longer have to go to a hub.
Right. We don't have to go to a gate anymore. Now we can instantaneously travel to any of the time periods that we like. Before this, it's been convenient and kind of linear as to jumping from gate to gate to gate to get to these. They laid out the map in such a way, and the places that you were exploring in such a way that the time gate that you needed next generally was at the end of the path that you were on. So it was convenient in that way. But now we need to get many places quickly. We don't need this kind of, there's no linear trail anymore of breadcrumb hunting. It's you need to go back and forth between all kinds of things, and you really are opened up now to kind of explore at your leisure and really look everywhere in all of these time periods, which is when the game proper really opens up and the map is completely wide open to you.
It's like it changes. It's like the game changes gears completely. It goes from being, like you said, a linear driven game to where the story almost plays out in a manner where you're the way you time travel is in a linear fashion. You go from
Right.
point to point to point because it's leading you in that direction,
Right.
or you have to complete the quest.
Right.
This now was where you have the option to do like pretty broad side quests. Like, these are not side quests that you do in like 2 minutes. These are side quests that have a lot to do with additional stuff to the story, specific items, weapons, and equipment throughout the game that you can get. And it's really like, it just broadens the whole game, opens it wide up,
Wide
lets
open.
you lets you start figuring out that things you do in certain time periods affect things in other time
In other
periods.
time periods, and those are just fun tricks. Like, it's, you can manipulate the time in such a way, and opening certain chests that are there in multiple times at the furthest time period doesn't affect the chest in its later time period. So you can go back and forth and kind of, open them in sequence and gain all of the items rather than only picking one out. Things like that, things, little time tricks essentially that you play with it. But at this time, we also can go back to 1200 BC, where Magus lives, and really kind of help in the Magus situation and fixing that problem. Um, and that's kind of when we meet Lavos proper. And you Magus, you help Magus, and you kind of show Magus the way, and Magus wants to try to defeat Lavos. In his an attempt to defeat Lavos, Magus is destroyed or defeated, and then your party tries to challenge Lavos, and it changes over to the trippy scene with and Lavos. Describe Lavos. It's
So which Lavos encounter are we talking about? The very first
the
one or
very
the
first one, the very first one with I guess Ozzy's right above his head over here, and it's just, he's a shelled creature, very spiky shelled, looks like a crustacean almost, with just a mouth, a little beaky mouth right in front, and he
Yep.
takes up 3/4 of the screen, and the rest of the screen is all trippy colors and shit.
Like, it's like similar to the time portal, time
Similar,
gate.
yeah, yeah, similar to a time gate, and
And
he's a
yeah,
bad motherfucker.
he basically, if you don't die in the first attack from him, because he's basically been summoned by Magus. Magus has brought him here, and he Magus seems to think he has control over Lavos, which at this time it appears that he does. And within the first attack, if you don't, your whole party doesn't die, you're going to die by the second attack. He's just super powered. I mean, this is an end game boss that you're fighting at, probably 25 to 30% through the game,
Right.
and maybe 40 at the very most.
Yeah,
And you're
well,
just,
this is probably the second one when you actually go to get, that was, yeah, you defeat Lavos, but I'm talking about the time when Magus defeats, you've convinced Magus, you've met Magus again, and you try to convince Magus of the good deeds, and you follow them along, and you find out why Magus is doing this is because of his mother and all that stuff, and he tries to defeat Lavos, and Lavos kills him or defeats him, and Chrono and the party tries to fight as well, and pretty much everybody dies, and Chrono sacrifices himself. And this is one of the first times and only time I can remember in a game to where you're playing the game, your main character, you sacrifice yourself, the main enemy literally vaporizes him. Chrono's dead, gone. Period. Your main character, the character you have been throughout half the game probably, is gone.
Right. Well, it's everybody. Yeah, everybody gets wiped out and devastated, and Chrono like gets back up, and yeah, he's like, I'm gonna take him out. I'm gonna do this myself, and he goes to lift his sword, and yeah, Lavos just literally
Vaporizes him.
vaporizes him. Like he gets hit, and that is your character. That is the primary character of the game, and he's gone. And I forget exactly what happens after that. I think you basically just wake up because you've been captured after that.
He transports Lavos destroys the entire kingdom, transports Prince Janus to the Middle Ages, and then sends the party to the gurus. Uh, to sends the three gurus. Okay, yeah, he sends the three gurus, Mekalor, Balthazar, and a man named Gasper, to various places throughout time. The remaining party members and Megas can be killed. Uh, Before they can be killed, his mom Sheila, Zeal's, Magus's mom saves them essentially and teleports them to the human remaining settlement.
That was it, Shala.
Shala. Yeah, Shala.
That was his
That's
sister.
That's
His
okay,
sister.
gotcha.
Yeah, she sends him to the safe area that the human.
Yeah, like Dalton, I think, right?
Yes, Dalton is the guy that is basically like the commander in chief
And
for.
Ben's Chrono's friend for a little bit.
uh
He's Dalton's the former leader of the security for the kingdom.
yeah, he's the commander in chief guy for the queen's army,
Right,
and not the good queen, the bad queen.
right. So just a bunch of stuff have been going on, and this is really where you find this is you can. So Chrono's dead. Your main character is dead. You can continue the game without him, or you can do a crazy side quest to bring him back to life.
And that's the idea. Like I still think that's probably part of the main game
I think they
goal.
want you to do it. Sure, I think they want you to do it, but you don't have to.
Yeah, if you don't, you're not required to.
You do not have to do it. And that's what this game's about. It's about the choices and that all these choices lead to the different endings, and just a full, crazy, awesome game that came out in '95.
Yep.
And we won't spoil too many of the endings or anything like that. My favorite ending is the SGDQ ending, or the AGDQ ending, bringing it back to that charity that we were talking about earlier. The AGDQ ending is the developer's room. So if you, I want to say that you can die. Just look it up. Look it up. I may have it in the description too. But it's a really cool ending, and you get to meet. There's characters specifically in a room at the end of time that are where the developers are. It's kind of neat. It's another section of the end of time. So many endings. Such a great game. You can pick it up anywhere.
Available on many platforms, many devices. Sorry, this one went down the rabbit hole a little bit. This one was very specific about the game itself and its mechanics and gameplay and story. So this is one, like I said, I feel very passionate about. If you stayed with us this whole time, we appreciate it. Thank you.
For sure. And the game episodes, I think the expansion pack sets are going to be kind of a little longer, just because we're going to be taking deep dives into some of these games and maybe talking about subgenres and other things. Lots of topics that we can go down the rabbit hole on this, and new video game news as well. And we'll next episode we'll be talking about the new video game news. I know PS5's coming out. You know, there's hot new PS5 news. I don't agree. I don't think that console's going to look like that. So we can talk about that later. Give it a couple. The new shit just came out on it, guys. Let's not get hype about this V-shaped fucking thing. It's not going to look like that. I think that's a dev kit. But other shit like that. We'll talk about all kinds of video game stuff, and it'll be good. This one went long. I think all these are going to go long. So buckle up. I'm glad you stuck with us, guys. Always like and subscribe. You don't have to. Just we love that you're watching. Give us a comment about this new segment. See if you dig it. If you don't, and definitely look for Chrono Trigger. Every platform. It's on everything. It's great. So find it wherever you like video games. And we're nerds. You guys are nerds too. So yeah, we'll talk about video games again.
And bonus, if you guys have played this game, leave us a comment down below about your favorite part of the game. What was your most enjoyable memory of it, or something that you fondly remember from playing this game? Or if you haven't played it and you get to play it here sometime in the future,
Hell
tell
yeah,
us
give
what
us a
you thought
comment.
about it.
Fuck yeah, we'd love to hear it. We'd love to hear it. And as always, be good to each other.